Hey, ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to the channel. As always, it is Nick here, back with your daily crypto news and analysis. And today we are going to be talking about the entire market. We will put a spotlight on XRP because I do think that XRP is looking very interesting right now. I'm going to be addressing it. If you are an XRP holder, you want to stay until like the middle to the end of this video. The entire video is going to go over the entire market and what I foresee happening over the course of the next couple weeks and months ahead. And we will really kind of address everything in detail. So number one, the entire market, right? We're still at this point in time where the sentiment has continued to get worse and worse and worse. We see the fear and greed index is down to a neutral point. And even in my recent videos, I said, fear and greed, we're still in greed levels. We don't need to go back down to extreme fear or anything like that. All we really need is a reset of sentiment. And I think that we already got that. Open interest around Bitcoin, for an example, has completely new. There is, I mean, if you really want to look at an indicator, open interest is a great indicator on what is happening right now around the space. So I personally would not write off the idea of Bitcoin having a nice little rally here shortly. But the question is Bitcoin going to break out in a very large way? And is Bitcoin going to come back down and retest significant lows? I'm going to talk about that and I'll address it. Number one, the big thing to focus on right now, and you guys probably already know that I've been saying this, is altcoins, right? Altcoins have not had an alt season. Everyone has been saying like, oh, that's it, crypto's done. I've been seeing a lot of posts over on X, and regardless if they're an engagement farming, tweet or not, a lot of it is hinting at the fact that like this market's done. That was it. And it's funny because, outside of some altcoins, most of them have not hit significant new all-time highs or even pumped significantly. I'll just grab ADA for an example, right? This is what the ADA chart looks like. Guys, last time I checked, this is not what alt season looks like. Alt season looks like this back here. And it's funny because even if you go back to before like the major alt season, this is what altcoins look like leading in to alt season. And realistically speaking, even if we look at the 2021 timeframe leading into that alt season, this is what the charts look like. Now, this is what the charts look like right now. Do you notice something very similar here? It seems as though we are preparing for the next big wave up for altcoins, aka we are preparing for alt season. And I do believe that we are going to see a major alt season this year. We're going to talk about it. We're going to address that as well. The overall market did take a massive beating this week, though, and it's something that we need to address, right? Almost $400 billion in 1 week was completely lost out of cryptocurrencies. And you know what's funny is also liquidations. I keep saying you don't need to play with leverage in order to become rich. People are playing with leverage when they don't even realize what they're doing. They don't understand how to trade. They're just throwing money into the wind, hoping that they win big. It's another form of gambling in this space. Outside of meme coins, leverage trading with 100x leverage is another great way for people to get that dopamine spike and gamble their savings away, essentially. When we look at this space right now, the best way to succeed is simply by doing nothing right now. If you're parked in altcoins, good. If you have money on the sidelines, great. The big thing to prepare for is, are we going to get that next leg down? And if we do, is that the time to be buying? In my opinion, yes, it will be. But also outside of all of this, you don't need to be panicking. You don't even need to act impulsively here. All you really need to do is calm your nerves, make sure that you are sitting there and understanding where we are at right now in the market cycle. The big thing that I've been focused on is Bitcoin. There was a recent post by Yahoo Finance, and I actually thought it was very interesting that they made this post. This is April 15th. Bitcoin share of crypto market high since 2021, partly due to ETFs. And yes, this is something that I have been noticing, is the fact that Bitcoin is still the dominant force in the space. And even in terms of Bitcoin dominance, it's slightly starting to fall a little bit. I've been following this for a big, part of the channel because, again, Bitcoin dominance is the biggest thing that we need to focus on. And if we look at the current levels right now this goes back to April 13th, so it's a little bit behind, but we could see the overall percentage here. Altcoins are barely making up any percent here. Bitcoin and Ether are the two largest ones, with Bitcoin being at almost 55% and Ether being at about roughly almost 16%. So again, we're not at that point where, we should be expecting a massive move on Bitcoin. No, we're at that point where we should be expecting a massive move for altcoins. And technically, because we are roughly almost 24 hours away from the Bitcoin halving, after the Bitcoin halving is typically when, and again, this is going off of previous cycles, is when altcoins start their massive move to the upside. Now, again, going off the fear and greed index, I don't like to utilize it as a major indicator, but realistically speaking, the reason why we are looking at this now is because we are back into neutral territory. Guys, here we have back in December, a lot of the altcoin market was starting to wake up a little bit here, but also Bitcoin was waking up in a very large way. Most of the market was pretty bullish during this time in December. We dipped heavily into almost February, right? This is after the ETFs launched and everything. The market kind of sold off a bit. And this is when we hit neutral territory yet again on the fear and greed index. And what happened next month after this was bullish, 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 all the way into, of course, the middle of March, which is where we actually topped out a little bit in terms of a local top. And now we are back into this level. And this is where we are very interested in seeing what happens next around this space. And in my opinion, a big wake up is happening. Let's address a few things. So here is the total three, the altcoin market. And just like I said in my previous videos, what we are watching for is another stab at this lower trend line, because we already got the initial test. Now we just wait for this next test, which we are pretty much close to getting right now. We are still fighting the EMAs on the weekly here, but one more tap of this bottom level, and I'm expecting a move to the upside. So this is the altcoin market, like I said, and from here, what I'm really kind of expecting, and it could even be like around this level down here, I'm expecting a move of roughly 30+% to this upper trend line before we back test it again, and then we go. XRP right now, this is what the XRP chart looks like. Now I have two scenarios on this chart. Again, I'm not expecting that lower one. I'm expecting this one up here. What I'm looking at around XRP and around most altcoins is just a little bit more chop, because as we look at Bitcoin dominance right now, this is what the Bitcoin dominance chart looks like. This is on the weekly. You can clearly see resistance up here at about roughly 55.7%. Currently speaking, we are ranging on the 55.25% support zone. If we lose this level and we start to go down, that is going to be very bullish for altcoins, which means as we do chop a little bit here on the Bitcoin dominance chart, we could very well chop on XRP, on pretty much any altcoin. We could also see a possibility of us tapping that bottom trend line yet again on XRP before we actually move to the upside. And we also have to clear this red zone here at about roughly 53 cents to about roughly 56.5 cents. Ultimately, I would argue like 58 cents is the big level that we need to clear. Going all the way back here, for an example, to March of 2023, where that was the major resistance zone. So anywhere within this red zone is where we should be watching XRP to have a major sell-off or a rejection at resistance. But ultimately, we are still watching for a reclaim of this upper trend line. But I'm expecting us to chop a little bit more on altcoins, which is technically an opportunity in disguise for most people out there that are realizing it. When we look at the Bitcoin dominance chart, right, and we're starting to see some chop on this, we do look at the Bitcoin pairs on a lot of altcoins. XRP on the weekly still looks golden on the Bitcoin pair. And I addressed this multiple times where we were expecting this to happen, right? A chop sideways before the big move. Bitcoin dominance is the thing to watch for this big move to actually happen on XRP. But this is also going into the question of, when is altcoins going to take off? Well, it's Bitcoin dominance that we are watching for that. And that's why we look at the total three as well. But right now, the Bitcoin halving, it is roughly almost 1 day and 22 hours away. By the time that this video goes live, it's going to be about roughly 1 day and like 21 hours or so. But this is something that everyone has been anticipating. Everybody's been watching it closely. And it is because typically after this, is when we start to see altcoins going crazy. And what's funny about it is that CNBC is already pushing the narrative. April 16th, Bitcoin halving is likely this week. Here's what you need to know. They're already starting to funnel in the herd, right? And this is typically when the herd comes back. Go look at the previous halvings, right? Go back to 2020. We had the halving, May of 2020. What ended up happening after is a massive surge in the price of Bitcoin. Go back to 2016, same exact thing. 2012, same exact thing. Is this time going to be any different? In my opinion, no, I don't think that it's going to be. I think that Bitcoin is going to have a rally, but ultimately, I'm not worried about Bitcoin. I am worried about the Bitcoin pairs for a lot of these altcoins going absolutely crazy. And when it comes to XRP, I do think that XRP is starting to shine a little bit on the weekly. As long as we start to maintain this trend line, we start to range on it, and we start to break over significant levels. Initially, the first level that I'm actually interested in is just flipping this level up here. And it's a little bit lower, actually. It's like around this area here at about roughly 1,256 sats. Guys, this initial level here on the Bitcoin pair, and this should get everyone excited. From the current level that we are at, this is a roughly 54% move. Just to put it into perspective, on XRP, we should rally about roughly 50-some percent. From the current level, if we do have a 50% move, we're talking about roughly a 75-cent XRP. Why is this significant? Well, 75 cents is the first major target that we actually need to close over on the weekly in order for us to target 92 cents, and then the 2021 high, followed by the all-time high. So this could very well be the beginning of that move, but we still need to watch this closely, and we still need to anticipate anything that can happen. As we look at Bitcoin, we are still in that level of support, and we actually wicked down to about roughly 59.7K. If we were going to get that major level down here tapped, the next demand zone, I do think that today would have been that day. So am I expecting any significant lows happening next? No. As long as we can flip 64K and then 67K, Bitcoin is bottomed here. But we still need to brace for impact in case we do get that significant demand zone ran on Bitcoin. Now, why are we watching that? Well, let's talk about a few things. So one, why do I think that we don't have to go lower? Well, one is CNBC is already pushing the idea that, hey, Bitcoin briefly drops below $60,000 for the first time since March 5th. The thing that I'm really watching for with Bitcoin here is possibly a significant rally, right? Once we clear 67K, we're not out of the woods, right? We still need to clear $74,000. So if we do have, a range here and then we break to the upside, we range a little bit more and then we break to the upside, we could still reject from any time up here down to a significant low. This is when everyone will expect us to have a massive rally to the upside and say, all right, well, that's it. We're good, right? But what if that's when we start to have a massive sell-off yet again, completely kill morale around Bitcoin and around crypto, and then we get another big move to the upside to finally break out? That's what I personally would be expecting on Bitcoin going into, the next couple weeks and months ahead. But that's why I say, it will, this market will play with your emotions 24/7, all the time. That's why you have to leave your emotions out of it. But again, that's why when we look at Bitcoin right now, if we are bottomed here, then that's the next big thing to focus on, is clearing these levels initially and then clearing 74K. But if we ran up here and we reject it against resistance one more time, and we had a major sell-off in the market, maybe even down to this demand zone here, we don't need to go down to 50K or $3,000. There's still a possibility that we do see that level, and this could very well be the moment for that, where we have this massive sell-off in the market down to this demand zone, and then we go. That's a possibility, but we need to address it when that time comes. But this is also why, taking some profits off the top is never a bad thing when you are in significant profits. But the reason why this could very well happen is go back to previous cycles, right? For an example, 2021 is a perfect example of this. We had a nice big drop back here in January, right before the big moves on Bitcoin. And then we had a nice spike to the upside. we could not break out of the resistance zone, and then we sold off yet again before the next big wave. And we started to see this, like this was happening multiple times during, Bitcoin's moves before we had that big breakout. Here's another move, right? Where we had a significant sell-off right in November. Then we have a spike, but this actually broke over the high. This broke over resistance. But there was also resistance from previous cycles that we still need to clear. Like this is the all-time high from 2017, 2018 that we couldn't clear, and then we sold off yet again. And this was a little bit more this was like a higher low, right? Like this is a higher low. We already had the higher high. This is a higher low. So the next level was, all right, we need to make a higher high, which we did get that in the following days forward. But again, this is why I'm expecting us to have, a big rally on Bitcoin, get everyone into, oh, all right, well, this is it. Bitcoin's about to rally massively. And then we get that deep sell off. Either way, are we expecting Bitcoin to go to 100K right now? Not exactly. I still think that we're going to chop a little bit more and kill morale. But I do think that we are anticipating a big rally here on Bitcoin, at least to around like $70,000 because of open interest being killed completely. We're starting to see the Bitcoin halving narrative being pushed by CNBC, and also the overall sentiment in the market has, pretty much been reset back down to neutral territory. But also a big indicator that Bitcoin is about to rally is the DXY. On the weekly, the DXY actually technically here looks bearish, but we still need to watch this closely because we could still see a rally above this. But are we about to see this option happen where we do break down, we backtest this trend line and completely lose it, retesting the initial 200 weekly EMA at about roughly 101? Or are we going to break that level as well and then go down to the next significant demand zone? And that level is roughly around like 97 to about roughly like 100. It's like 99 to 97 within that level. So if we do see that, then that's going to allow for this market to really kind of wake up in a big way, which is also why I said, we don't need to tap this demand zone. I said this multiple times already, but we still need to be cautious and we still need to be aware that this is still a high probability. This is still a high probability of happening, whether it be on this next move here or if it's after a move to the upside and then down. And I even said this over here. I said the next demand zone has a high probability of being the next target for Bitcoin. We lost 61K today, but held 60K. The key level for Bitcoin to reclaim is $67,000, which we haven't reclaimed since the initial pullback. Let's see what the rest of the week looks like. But for now, I'm still expecting lower. And the reason why I'm expecting lower is because of the fact that, we still haven't had a massive reset of sentiment. It's still neutral. We could still go into extreme fear. But since I posted this is at about roughly 6 p.m. I was expecting lower simply because I was looking at the daily candle close. We actually got our daily candle close today. It wasn't extremely bullish, but it was above this support zone. And if we are going to rally from here, this next daily candle would be that. We still have a few days until the weekly close this Sunday, which I'm going to be addressing a little bit more closely as we do get closer to that. But I'm not expecting lower unless we could reclaim 64K. This is where we want to actually see a rally to $67,000, retest it, and actually break over it before going lower. But if we are going to reject $64,000 again and lose 60K and $61,000, right, because it's the 61K region, then I do expect this to actually go pretty low. Again, we don't have to retest this demand zone, but it would be like around the mid range. But the full focus of my thought process here is getting over this range here. This is the target. We need to get over this entire level here. And once we clear 67K, there's only one more level that we really need to clear, and that is the high here, the all-time high, which is like at about roughly 74K. We still need a daily close over that before we get excited. So the initial target here, 64K, 67K, $74,000. That's all that matters on Bitcoin. Until then, yes, we should still be expecting lower. I'm not expecting us to have that move down today or this week. In fact, I think that we rebound a bit, especially with the DXY looking the way it is. And I wouldn't, write off the idea of us actually breaking over this ranging here, and then breaking out to that 74K level, having a rejection down. Again, we could even, scam wick, if you will, down to like $58,000 or so. Again, the reason why I'm talking about 58K or like 59,000 is because of this candle wick from March 5th. At that time, we really look at, are we going to have a significant bounce here? Is it going to rebound, or are we going to just continue to bleed down into the demand zone before the next big move? But we will obviously address that at that time. Right now, currently speaking, the chart is telling us 62K. We need to clear 64K. Until we clear that $64,000 dollar level, then the next move here could very well be something like this before we have the big rally. Ultimately, big thing to focus on here is don't get too bearish, don't get too worked up in terms of emotions. We are getting closer to the Bitcoin halving, which, like I said, this is something that mainstream media will continue to feed to the normies just to get them in. A lot of altcoin charts in terms of their Bitcoin pairs look like this, where they're completely flat bottomed, waiting for an impulsive move. What helps them is Bitcoin dominance losing steam, which I do think that will happen probably around the next couple weeks ahead. We still need to be watching Bitcoin closely, though. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you guys did, definitely leave a like, subscribe, turn notifications on because more free content. You guys are more welcome to follow me on Twitter and join the free Discord in the description below. And with that being said, guys, it's been Nick. Thanks for watching. Peace out.